to either monument site currently.
So I know we have some just outside the current monument. Do we have any inside the monument? I can't think of any inside right now on BLM. Forest Service?
No.
So the monument management plan, this EIS will amend the BLM Monticello Field Office 2008 Resource Management Plan. And it will also amend the Forest Service's Van LaSalle 1986 Land and Resource Management Plan. So in this section here, this is the livestock grazing, and what she just handed out to you, that table, you'll find this exact table. And so we just pulled a couple of them into this presentation rather than all of them, since we did it as a handout. So under the livestock grazing, you'll notice the current alternative, current land use plan shows in the Shasha unit. Shows in the Shasha unit that alternative A, 96% of the land is available for livestock grazing. And then alternative B, 67%. So we made a little bit less available for, under the Forest Service's case, they use the term suitable. So that's why there's two different words here. BLM and Forest Service uses suitability. Alternative C, 93%, and then 93% in alternative D. So we have this wide range of alternatives. So as an example, if the Monument Advisory Committee were to look at us and say, we really think that you should consider only 20% of the whole monument available for grazing. This would be a tough decision because, like Ed referred to either, it's not within the range of alternatives. And so we would like to stick with things that are within the range, then we can make better decisions without a supplemental EIS. So, do you have a map? This is a map that we brought up at the draft EIS meetings, and you can see the majority of the decisions under grazing, how it went from in the Shasha unit.
She's got it.
Yeah, okay.
She did, it's a,
Give her just a moment.
oh, it was there a second ago. I didn't.
Okay. So that's alternative A. It's going to be a little bit hard to see on that screen, but essentially, in the current land use plan for livestock grazing, these areas right here that don't have the hash marks, those are not available for livestock grazing. All of the hash marks here, grazing occurs on it, as well as onto the.
Sure. You can go ahead and see it a little better. You can point to it there.
Okay. Yeah. This map actually might be easier for those who hit the table. So alternative B and C increases the lands that are available for livestock grazing, and that's really on the Forest Service, on some of the points, and up and down the cone. There's some existing grazing decisions that we've been working with livestock operators down in here that they already have agreements, and they've agreed with BLM. We don't want to have our livestock in those areas. They get up in them narrow canyons and they have trouble, and they're up there next to sensitive sites.
I
And so,
want to add one thing to that,
Yep.
if I could. But they are concerned about water resources up in those canyons.
okay,
So they, you know, they're more than willing, like you say, to not access those narrow canyons, but they don't want to, some of those canyons do have water resources. They want to be able to have access to the water.
okay. Great, thanks, Gail. Appreciate that.
Lance, is this our time to ask questions about grazing, or are we going to get into these different topics in more depth later?
So we can ask some questions here. If grazing is one that you think that you might want to make a recommendation on, we'll have Lisa capture it, and we can
Yeah.
get in really detailed tomorrow morning. But general questions, we ought to take them now, we have a little bit of time. So basically, alternative D, the preferred alternative, proposes to make unavailable or unsuitable to grazing or currently not being grazed by agreements from the permittees. So those areas that are currently not being grazed, we have agreements on. So most of them areas are already not accessible to livestock grazing. Is that,
Do you know between, I guess, alternative A and alternative D, or C and D, we lose 3%, where is that 3% being lost?
so in the Shosh job, the majority of it is here on the points and in the forest. Alternative A is different here.
Is it down
Actually, it's in Arch Canyon.
in Arch Canyon, Butts Canyon, and Texas Canyon?
Texas.
That's what I thought.
It's in the lower portions of the canyon.
Texas Canyon.
Is it all the same permit holder?
No.
How many different?
The Utes have the Butts Canyon and uppermost points, I think it's on Mill Branch Point maybe, or above Texas Flat.
Well, so one of them, as far as like under alternative B, is a portion of the Milk Ranch Point. And then all the other areas in terms of the forest is where we're talking about Arch Canyon and Texas Canyon, which
It's on Canyon.
yeah, which is basically in the canyon bottom of that, and not up.
He's not accessing it anyway, I talked to
Yeah,
him
right,
about it. It's
right.
not, it's so it's the Utes and it's Canyon, but it's down in areas that
So-
we're not using anyway.
In alternative A or D, they're not using that area currently.
It's just pretty much inaccessible for them right now. So as I understand it, if you specify that as unavailable to grazing, which it pretty much is simply because of the way it sits, you wouldn't be using any NUMs in the long run anyway, would you?
On the BLM, we would, because we have that's already on there.
A question for, I think the White Mesa had grazing permits also in the area. Would any of these alternatives affect their reduction to their AAUs or anything like that?
Yes, yes, under alternative B, when you're looking at the Milk Ranch Point,
It's
that would have an impact.
And the same with alternative B on the Forest Service, would also have an impact coming down the cone.
So A and D, no AUMs cut on Forest Service or BLM.
No, because it basically, we don't have anything allocated within those allotments to begin with. Because they aren't using it, we're just trying to acknowledge what the current situation is. And it's more of a land-based type of what we're talking in terms of allocation.
One other question.
Yeah.
Would like a future committee come like maybe 20 years later and say, okay, we want to increase them again? Say that in the case that we do decide to decrease, would a future committee have the option of increasing them back to like alternative A or something like that? After our decision is made, or recommendation, I should say.
Well, I mean, that's up to the decision maker. I guess ultimately, as far as with the decision, I'm not quite, I mean, there's always that option. But, you know, I think this pretty much more or less paints the picture as to what the current what the existing potential where permits are issued.
It is always the option, but we're making an allocation decision in these planning efforts. And in order to go back to A, we would need to do another land use plan amendment to probably go back to that. If we were to select alternative B, for example, and we went that way, then all at once we went, now we're going to have grazing back, it would take some kind of a land use plan amendment to do that.
Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Ed?
Just, it wouldn't be the committee though, it would be the agency.
Right.
Based on new information, decide, I think now we believe we've had a proposal to change the decision and we're going to consider that. And that process would start planning. And the committee would be able to weigh in and provide advice on that subsequent plan that would be making that decision.
Okay, good discussion. Anything else on this? Okay, Lee?
In paragraph 32 of President Trump's modification, it says that nothing in this proclamation shall be deemed to affect authorizations for livestock grazing or administration thereof on federal lands within the monument. Livestock grazing within the monument shall continue to be governed by laws and regulations other than this proclamation.
So you just
Can you
read,
clarify for us how you're justifying addressing changes in livestock grazing in a monument plan in light of that paragraph?
yeah, absolutely. And you just referred to this paragraph right here. Thank you for doing that. So the proclamation does allow for the continued use of livestock grazing. We had lots and lots of public comments and feedback through the scoping issues that they wanted the agencies to look at livestock grazing. We had some comments that thought that livestock grazing should be reduced or eliminated. In trying to develop a good monument management plan and going through an adequate process, we think developing a range of alternatives is the strongest position for us to be in. And so we've developed a range of that analysis, and in that environmental impact statement, that draft, it addresses what those impacts would be if we were to do that and decreasing livestock grazing. And so the other thing that statement could be governed by the laws and regulations other than the proclamation. Some of the other laws and regulations would be our existing 43 CFR Code of Federal Regulations that requires us to address livestock grazing in land use plans, which is what we're doing right now under FLIPMA. And so in order to have a strong defensible environmental impact statement, we need to address livestock grazing through a range of alternatives.
Thank you.
You have it.